Hi everyone, welcome back to Java 1 for All, and in this video we are going to talk about conditional statements or conditional structures or control structures. So there are several names. Basically we are trying to control the flow of our program, and basically you do the control flow in your life every day, and we are going to do the same when we start working as developers. Let's say for example you want to buy some groceries. You are going to buy groceries if you have money. I'm going to drive a car. You can only drive a car if you have driver's license. I want to learn Java. Well, you will learn Java if you watch Java 1 for All, and so on. As you can see, if is part of your life, and it will be part of your career as developer as well. Before we start, it's a new class. Let's create here throughout insert a new class, and let's call it class 05. Let's call conditional statement. And as you know, the SVM, because all programs in Java that we would like to run will need the main method. And let's start by creating a variable. Let's call this int age, and let's give the age of 20 years old for this guy. So if has a syntax. Each language they have their own. In Java it's pretty straightforward. First you type if, open parentheses, and then you have your block. The same way as you have for your public static void main and for your class. Curly braces, opening and closing. And now whatever you have here needs to result in a boolean, either true or false. Now let's just add here south inside if, and I will add here if true. Control Shift F10, and you will see that this will be executed. The if is only executed if the condition that you have inside results in true. So this means that if I type false, this if will never be executed. So I'll add here outside if, and you will see that we do have our code being executed. So just keep that in mind. Every time that you have an if, it will only be executed if the condition that you have inside is true. Now another thing in Java, if you have only one statement inside your block, technically you can remove the curly braces like this, and it will still be executed if the condition is true, and you will see the inside if in the console. Now this is not a good idea. You could do this or even something like this in the same line, but you will see that most of the people will have if like this with a nice body. It's more lines, but honestly it's easily to visualize, especially when we are working with thousands of lines. So let's start working with our age. Let's say that we are writing a system, an online store, and we are selling alcohol, and we need to check if the age of whoever is buying is greater than 18. Well, if you are in the United States, it would be 21. I think maybe Germany is 16 or 18 as well, I'm not sure. So let's suppose that we are checking if the age is, now it can be greater or equals than 18 or greater than 17 is the same thing. So greater or equals than 18, and then authorized to buy alcohol. Control Shift F10, and you will see that this it's in the console because age is 20. 20 is greater or equals than 18. This will result in true. If true, then execute my block. And remember, if you are not over 18, this will result to false. And then if false, and false is not executed. As you can see, if we try to run, Now, it happens that sometimes you will see the variable stored somewhere else, like the way we were doing in the previous videos. So we can create here a boolean, for example, is allowed to buy alcohol, and this will set based on the condition of age being greater or equals than 18. And now this variable will be used here. So I will add a breakpoint here and then Shift F9. So you know that the age is 20, and then this will result, and if you just hover over to true, so now in memory this variable is having a value that's true. If true, then we have our block being executed. F9 to just resume the program, and you can see in the console here the message. Now remember that I said we do have one unary that we didn't talk about in the previous video. That's the logical not. So let's say, and we are going to talk about another condition that's else later, but let's say that sometimes you would like to check if something is false to execute. It means that if it's false, resulting in true, and it can get pretty confusing, you want to execute. So let's say I want to print a message, and this message is like, hey, sorry, you are not allowed to buy alcohol. Now this message can only be displayed if they are not allowed, and we do have a condition here. So basically what I want to do is, if he is allowed to buy alcohol is false, so I'm comparing if the variable is false. So if false equals false, then it's true. We would like to print this message, so I'm gonna change, if I execute now, is allowed is true, so true equals false, false. If false, so you know that this will not be executed. Now let's say 15, and a good tip is always try to look and predict what's going to happen in your code before you execute, so you will get used to catch errors way faster than if you try to execute it each time. So is allowed to buy alcohol, age 15, greater than 18, no, so this will not be executed if false. And then if false equals false, oh, this is true, it will execute line 12. Control Shift F10, and you can see, sorry, you are not allowed to buy alcohol. Now this can be let's say shortened to the logical not. So basically I'm saying if it's not allowed to buy alcohol, print this message. Now Control Shift F10, and we have the same result. So if this equals to false, so in this case we are always checking for the true value, and I'm saying if it's not true, it means if it's not allowed to buy alcohol, it means that this will only be executed if this guy is false. Now there are a couple of things if you are studying to some exams, or if you are doing some HackerRank or Codility tests, that you should be aware of. It's something that you will never see in real life, but there are some cases, for example, where people just try to trick you with if conditions. So for example, imagine that we have a condition here. I will put just a message, and I will call this inside weird condition, because you know that, let me create here, you know that this must result true, right? And most of the times you are doing some exams, they will try to make sure that you understand the difference between a signing operator and the operator that's checking if something's equal. And then they will do something like this. As you can see here, we have boolean being initialized with true, and then when I get to line 15, I'm saying, hey, now C, the space in memory that C is having a reference to, will have false. And then in the end, if C equals false, or if false, this means that this will not be executed. As you can see, it's not executed. Now, if you change this to equals equals, it also works, but in this case, it will not execute because it's false. C is true and true is not equals to false. And if I change this to false, this one will print the inside the weird condition. But if I change this to like this, it will not print inside weird condition. So you are never going to do this in real life, but actually there is one exception when we are talking about while, especially when we are reading files. We are probably going to see that, but in general, you don't do that in real life. And just to finish this video, you cannot have, for example, only a variable that's not Boolean. For example, if you type if age, yeah, you do have a compilation error because the result of this guy needs to be either true or false. Okay, so I think that's enough for one video. In the next one, let's talk about else. See you there.